This episode of The Third Sector is being made possible through the support of Richmond Civic Theater, where the Time of Our Lives season is in full swing with Main Stage Productions' Calendar Girls in October and A Christmas Carol the Musical in December. And don't miss the Stage 1 production of Emma, a pop musical, in November. Keep up with all the performances at gorct.org.
Hello and welcome to the Third Sector. In our society there are three sectors: the public, the private, and the nonprofit. It's that third sector, the nonprofits, that we're here to talk about today. My first guests are here representing DIVA. So tell us what DIVA stands for.
Well, DIVA stands for the Dudas Inspiration Venue for the Arts. It is a nonprofit community art space that exists for our own internal productions to come to life, or for a third-party user to come and use the space however they see fit, whatever art they want to bring to the community, whether that's a performance, an exhibition, a photography display. However an artist defines their art is what art they can bring to our space. So it's, however you define art is how we define art.
So that could be poetry reading,
Absolutely.
painting,
Right.
any number of things.
That's
Yes.
right.
So you've been around, I believe, about 2 years as a startup organization.
As an organization, right.
And in that time, what have you done?
Well, we started up about July of 2017 officially. We moved to the building that we're in now in October of 2017. But we didn't have access to the space that we wanted to use for DIVA until about February of 18. So that's when we got into the space, we did some painting, we cleaned up the bathroom a little bit. The whole idea, though, eventually, the building that we're in is much larger. It's just one section of that building. So the idea is for us to expand the space that's available for DIVA. But so for now, we kind of just put some Band-Aids on things, you know. So we're in the space, and we've been offering use of the space since maybe the summer of 18, I think. But we started the Department of Improv, which was our first real formal internal production. We call those productions at DIVA. So those are things that we produce, that we put on ourselves. So we started this improv troupe, and we've been performing on the first Friday of every month since October of 18. So just a little over a year now.
And that's probably the best known thing that DIVA
Right.
does. So tell us how that runs. What would people expect to see if they came to a performance?
Well, it's short form improv comedy is a series of suggestions from the audience, some of which are taken live and on the spot from the audience, or some we have audience members write down certain things and they're put into a bag, and then we work them into the scenes in the show later. So over the course of about a 60 or 65 minute show, we'll get through about 14 or 15 scenes. We have a cast of usually 5 performers, a guest improviser with us of some local level of celebrity. We have Amy acting as the MC, as the host. And the crowd gets a really nice return on their entertainment investment when they get to hear their suggestions worked into a scene, or when they hear their words coming out of one of the performers' mouths. It's a very symbiotic relationship between the performers on the stage and the audience in the house. But it's we offer 2 different types of shows. We at 7 p.m. because we do these on the first Friday of every month, which I think you may have already mentioned. Our 7 o'clock show is what we call a filters on show, and we call that kind of a PG-13-ish. It's spontaneous, so you never quite know what's going to come out of someone's mouth, whether that's someone on stage or someone in the audience. So we do have that level of cautionary tale to put in front of someone before they decide whether they want to come to that show. Or at 9 p.m., which is a filters off show, which can be a lot more of mature content, but it's never hateful by nature. It's always done in good fun, but there are some choice words that fly around that room sometimes after 9 o'clock.
And the idea of the scenes is that they are different formats, so there's just different restrictions on the actors during a scene. You know, one scene is an alphabet scene where the lines have to start with the next successive letter of the alphabet as they move through the scene. There's a scene where two people link up and they are one person and they have to speak at the same time on the spot. So there's all these kind of restrictions that are in the scenes, and so they're all a little bit different. So it's fun for most people.
A lot of thinking on your feet.
Yes.
It's the easy example I always give, to not point a finger at anyone in the real world, Forrest Gump, while lovable, would not work well in improv. He takes direction well, but he's not necessarily sharp and fast. And you don't necessarily have to have a performance background. You don't have to necessarily be artistic. I think an internal level of funniness, to make up a word, is important, but just the level of the speed at which someone's intellect and wit can come to the surface. There were a couple of examples in our most recent performances where it felt like it was scripted. It felt like the person responding had told the other person what to say. I mean, when those moments happen, and it's a live performance, so not everything is a home run. Sometimes we bunt, sometimes we get walked.
Sometimes we strike out.
Sometimes we strike out. But it's, for context, the professionals that do some of these things on network television sometimes, they'll film for 2.5 hours just to get 22 minutes of good footage to show on air on TV. And we're giving them 60 minutes of raw, unprepared. We know what scenes are coming, but we don't know what any of the suggestions are. Amy has a little bit of that. She might have something pre-planned for us as the host of the show, but we don't know what's coming. We just know who needs to be on stage and who needs to bring a chair or get rid of a chair. So it is as organic as we can make it. And when those moments of epiphany strike, it is a room full of magic when it happens, because everybody's on your side. They always want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
So you said you had a troupe.
We do.
We do.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are some of your troupe members?
Well, we started with, I think, 12 or 13.
I think so.
And we've had a little bit of turnover from, life happens, and sometimes, different stations in your life, you're able to do some things and some that you're not. Some of our DIVA board members are in our group. Jared Adamson, just one of our dearest and best friends, is a man of infinite talents. Jared, David Jetmore,
Andrew Hoover, Kate Koechlein. She is our newest troupe member. We
Yes.
just put her in. Mike Buchholz, Judy Buchholz,
Trudy Wireman,
Amy Shaker,
Matt Sosi,
Robin Zitnick,
Erica Pearson.
and I hope we didn't leave
I think
somebody
that's
out.
all 13. And me.
And him, and Matt
And
Sosi. Did you say
We
Matt
said
Sosi?
Matt Sosi.
Okay.
But we
yes.
can always say Matt Sosi's name twice.
We can say Matt Sosi's name twice. Yes. So it's a broad range of experiences, and some have performance backgrounds, some don't at all. But we all went through a workshop together and learned some of the techniques. The whole idea about improv is to say yes to everything, no matter how absurd, and to stay open and to make your scene partner look good, to pass the ball, all those kinds of things. So it also works well just for kind of life experiences and life coaching, because we've developed a workshop curriculum as well, and we've had a workshop and we're planning another one. And some people use improv just as kind of a growth opportunity. And so the workshop materials also work well for that. Even somebody that just doesn't want to perform, they're not interested in that. And improv isn't necessarily always funny. Now, when we perform it, the audience wants it to be funny. So we focus on comedic improv for the performances. But when we work together and we do at least practice the techniques together once a week, we're not always funny. Sometimes we do some serious stuff to work on, character development and emotions and all that kind of stuff. So we really do work hard to learn how to quickly tell a story in 3 minutes when, somebody's using movie quotes as their lines, for example, So that's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a communications major as my undergraduate, and improv was always one of my favorite classes. And I agree with what you're saying. It doesn't just have to do with acting, but
Right.
building those skills, that interaction, and sometimes it's just a way to get away, to escape,
Exactly.
relax, to do and be something else for a few minutes. And,
Right.
and I see the value in that in our crazy lives that we have right
Exactly.
now too.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the best ideas we've had since we founded DIVA and since we started the Department of Improv was coming up with the idea of having a celebrity guest with us once a month. It has brought people into our lives that we might not have ever known otherwise. We've come to know people who were just, because we didn't even know if there would be an audience for improv in this town, and it turns out that so far there is. But the connections that we've made with people that we were barely aware of in certain instances, it just ends up being. I mean, we've brought people nearly to tears just from. They're so moved by the process and just being included, and and when you perform in front of a room full of people, some of which some of which are strangers, it's not uncommon to have an emotional release and to bring the community together. And honestly, that's almost kind of happening to me right now, to bring the community together in a room doing something creative, doing something positive. It is every bit of what we want DIVA to be. I mean, you spoke earlier about we had a chamber music event, and it was not as well attended as we would have hoped, but the energy that was in the room, there were 2 adults and 3 or 4 youth members that were participating, and it just had such a positive, it was an overwhelming feeling of this is what this space was designed to do. It was designed to bring people together, to create art. It's about the process of creating art, which is something that the two of us kind of geek out over, to learn why things are the way they are, to why someone wants them to be or look or sound a certain way. And the Chamber Series event was a good demonstration of that. And then right now, even though it's the only internal production that DIVA has with the Department of Improv, it is such a satisfying night to, it's a small space, so we're limited with audience size, but the room is full. We sell out nearly every show. I mean, our sellout is probably better than 90% rate, and so even when they're not sold, they're close. It's just a great time.
Yeah, the whole concept for us of DIVA in general is a community builder, is something to bring people together, something to give people the opportunity to make art when they don't otherwise have a venue or a space or the right tools for it. And it just feels like with what we've been able to do so far, even something that can kind of feel as silly and off the cuff as improv theater, it's really done that. We've made so many connections and we've created so many connections. It's been really a big success in that area, I think, even in the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, our time is up.
Yeah.
It always goes so fast.
does.
It's so fast.
Right.
It does. But I want to thank you for being here today
thank
and
you.
telling us about DIVA and all the wonderful things that are going on downtown at your
Happy to.
space.
Oh, yeah.
And I
It's-
look forward to hearing about the growth, because
Thank
I know
you.
there's
Thank
going
you.
to be a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with more of the third sector. Welcome back to the third sector. My guest now is Monica Koechlein from the Richmond Symphony Orchestra. Welcome, Monica.
Hi, Rachel.
Well, last segment we had DIVA, brand new. Now we've got Richmond Symphony Orchestra. You're not brand new.
We're not brand new. We've been
How
around
long
a
have
little
you
while.
been around?
We've been in existence for a total of 63 consecutive seasons. It's been an exciting ride. I haven't been here for all of them, obviously, but a lot of really great history wrapped up in the symphony.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
And you're just kicking off a new season.
We are. We're kicking off our season, Noteworthy Moments. We had, just a really great repertoire this season. Had a really great first September concert with guest pianist. And then in October, which I'm really excited about, Joshua Ulrich is joining us. He was the assistant concert master about the time I joined the Symphony 5 years ago. And he's coming back to be featured. We'll have a movies concert. We have a strings concert. We have a lot left in the season.
So the folks that are out in the audience that really don't know much about Symphony Orchestra, give them a little background on the orchestra, how it got started, how it's governed, and how are you funded?
Sure. So in 1956, we were organized by our first conductor, Manfred Bloom, who combined the Earlham Symphony at that time and a community orchestra at that time. It was an unprofessional orchestra. Nobody on the stage got paid. It was all volunteer. And Manfred led the symphony for the first 29 years of its existence. The next 11 years, we were led by Thomas Elephant, who professionalized the orchestra. And today, our third conductor, Guy Victor Bordeaux, has been with the orchestra for 23 years. The symphony is an animal. It always seems to be ebbing and flowing. Every time you come to a concert, you'll see your standard players and the woodwinds and the brass and in the percussion section, but our string players, they rotate quite a bit. Almost all of our players, or many of our players, are associated with either the Bloomington School of Music or the Cincinnati Conservatory School of Music, students and or teachers in that field. We do draw as far away. We have a trombone player who joins us from Detroit. We have one player who joins us, where's she from? I think in Tennessee. So we kind of try to draw from kind of everywhere. But our musicians are an eclectic group. They really love to play together. They don't have a lot of time to rehearse together, really, before they put a concert on for the season. The orchestra is really dependent on this community to exist, and I can't stress that enough. As a nonprofit organization, we exist because people allow us to, and they do that through donations and sometimes in-kind contributions. We have to have a masterful fundraising event that we're pretty dependent upon, really dependent on the challenge match, the Wayne County Foundation challenge match, and also on grants. So there's a lot of work involved. We currently have a board of about 21 members. I was trying to think if it was 21 or 22. But we work really hard to make sure that the governing board is, that people are selected that have the skill sets that the symphony needs to be successful. So it's pretty strategic. It's a fun process to watch, and it changes with the times and what your needs are.
Absolutely, I understand that. I think any nonprofit in the community goes through that.
There's an ebb and a flow. There is an ebb and a flow, and I think if you're uncomfortable with the ebb and the flow of, reevaluating your programs and deciding that maybe you need to morph them into something different, or how many events you're having in the community and where those events are occurring, any of those decisions, it's easy to get hung up and get kind of stuck. And I think it's better just to flow and understand that just because you let something go doesn't mean that it might not come back at some point in time.
I think there might be a misconception that your ticket sales, that's all you need. Just the ticket sales should take care of that, right?
I think I figured that out the other day and reported to the board. Not our overall expenses, but just our concert expenses. I think our season ticket sales and single ticket sales cover about 13% of our costs. And so we really, I think it's important to keep your ticket prices at what people, not necessarily what the value is, but what people are willing to pay. I'm certain that we have people who are willing to pay more, but I've always felt like giving back to this community is an important part, and giving back to this community in a way that's affordable and still allows us to be productive and have 6 full concerts a year and lots of education opportunities. It's really important.
And I know it's important for it to be a family event too. So if the prices are too high, families can't attend.
Exactly. I mean, we want it to cost you less to come to a symphony concert than to go to the movies, for sure. Yes. So our adult tickets we keep really low. One of the most exciting things that happened before I came to the Symphony was during its 50th season, the RSO decided to make all children's tickets free under the age of 18. So we are starting to see more kids. We've added activities because it's hard for kids to sit still. It's hard for kids to engage in a way that an adult would. So we've made activities and notes that are kind of transcribed and more at both an elementary and an intermediate level, so kids can really engage that way with what's going on the stage and kind of keep active and busy during the concert and hopefully quiet.
I know you do other events for children, school children during school time.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about those
Sure.
activities.
So we serve about 4,000 youth for free every year. That's an important part of our mission, an important part of what I love most about the Symphony. So actually, I was looking at the schedule, putting our production schedule out, and in October, on Friday, we'll have a third grade concert where we'll draw about 1,600 third graders in one morning to participate in a free concert. We'll draw kids from as far away as Portland. Really, we have a lot of kids from Newcastle that love to come to that concert. I don't think it's just because it's free. I think it's just a great opportunity for kids to be out of school and to be witnessing something that they wouldn't typically see. That's on a Friday. On Saturday, we'll put on a regular concert. On Sunday, we'll have our Young Artist Competition, where we'll have 6 students this year, all females, competing for a chance to play solo with the Symphony at our November concert. And then on that Monday, we'll have 5th graders in. I think we've got about 750 signed up to view a program of Wicked Jack. We're also adding a new program this year I'm really excited about. It's kind of more of an instrument introduction. When we talk to the band directors and the orchestra teachers, they mentioned that students being introduced to instruments at the time that they're selecting whether they want to be in band or orchestra is really important, and it's a time that's really missed, an opportunity that's missed. It typically happens in the evening after school, and so we're going to actually go in with 16 musicians and introduce the 4 string instruments, the 4 woodwinds, the 4 brass, and some percussion instruments, and provide kids with opportunities, some information they can take home to their parents, and hopefully just increase the number of students that are participating in music programs. So we'll do that at Test and Dennis.
I know all the statistics that you read about. Kids involved in music do better in all other aspects of their life.
Yes.
So it's so important for kids to come to these concerts.
It is.
And especially I think classical music has been shown to be very beneficial, especially to developing minds, the very
Yes.
small child. And so I thank you for those concerts that you're doing for the young children and those introductions.
It's a pleasure. They just all happen to fall in the fall, on like one weekend. But
It's a very busy time.
It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time.
What else is going on at the Symphony? I know there are other things that you do.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So one thing that's been really important to me, when I came to the Symphony, there was very little opportunity for Symphony to be in the community. We performed on Civic Hall stage, and people came to the Symphony and enjoyed that opportunity. And I felt like it was really important for us to show that we're a community partner. And so we developed a community concert series, really thanks to the spring cycle of the Wayne County Foundation, some funding from Koechlein Family Foundation, and some funding from West End Bank. And we were able to put together a pretty sizable community concert series. In a year, we'll have about 15 to 20 opportunities for people to engage with music in the community, smaller ensembles typically, whether that be our RSO singers, whether that be a brass quintet, whether that be a string trio. And we like to go to places where we see different people. So we'd love to be in the park. We also love to be at Forest Hills, and we love to be at Taste of Wayne County. So we just kind of make the rounds with groups. We also have a really great partnership right now with Bethany Theological Seminary. They're in their 25th year. And a year ago, they asked us to do 2 years of recitals in the Night Carey Chapel. And so we've completed 3 of those, and we have 3 left, all within this fiscal year. So that's been a really great opportunity. And then I think just the ride of the fundraising event has been a real joy. When I started with the Symphony, it felt like a big event. It was my first event doing with Ginger Gray. It felt like a big event. It was 165 in attendance. This last year we had nearly 500. So 165 feels much more manageable than this one does. It's kind of an animal. So we've been working through the decades, and in April of 2020 we'll take on Show Me the 90s.
Monica, we've got about 2 minutes left. So what do we need to tell the folks about the symphony that we haven't covered?
Oh, I think we're really accessible. I think that, you don't have to know a lot about classical music to enjoy the symphony. You just have to enjoy a time away from home, really. There are notes in the program. All of that is free. There's a pre-concert conversation where conductor will interview the guest artist and talk about the music for the evening before the concert. So there's lots of ways, and obviously the kids' notes. We have lots of things in place that allow people to be engaged with the symphony. And if not in Civic Hall, then in the community. Like I said, that community concert series is really vital and important to our existence. And I'm adamant that we grow that. I'm adamant that we seek out new partnerships and collaborations to just improve the quality of life in this community.
And if folks are out there and they're looking for a way to volunteer or a way to support the symphony, how can they reach you?
Sure. So our website, we're available on our website. Donations can be made at richmondsymphony.org. With the volunteers, what we really need a lot of times is volunteers in ushering, which they can volunteer and sign up at Civic Hall Associates. Civic Hall Performing Arts Center, they kind of manage the ushers for us, but we're always running short. So it'd be great to have some folks join us that way.
Super. Thanks for joining us today and talking about Richmond Symphony Orchestra.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And thank you for joining us on the Third Sector.
This episode of The Third Sector has been made possible through the support of Richmond Civic Theater, where the time of our live season is in full swing with main stage productions Calendar Girls in October and A Christmas Carol the Musical in December. And don't miss the Stage 1 production of Emma, a pop musical in November. Keep up with all the performances at GoRCT.org.